Welcome to today's Astromechanics. Today we're going to be talking about the Eclipse with Chris from Serious Joy. So let us know in the comments if you stared at the eclipse today. It just went over, and I have to tell you I did stare at it, and I feel a little bit high afterwards. So I don't know why they wanted everybody to hide inside, but there was clearly a positive impact of staring at it for me. What I learned about staring at the sun is it helps me see auras and energy and the sunrise and the sunset. But with a total full moon eclipse or full eclipse, it's very different. You also get to see auras. Chris is all right. Waiting for it. Yeah, I don't know if you're gonna. I think it just passed. Gray skies. You know, even with the clouds going over it, it was actually easier to see.
Hey guys,
Hey, Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Happy eclipse to you both.
Yeah, we were literally just staring at it, and I was telling Aisha I think I feel a little bit high after that.
Yeah, the energy is really high. I'm actually in Texas. We're at 99% here, like where I happen to be.
Hmm.
And the energy was, and we had partly cloudy too, so it was kind of interesting because it was sort of go behind it. It's sort of like a Batman signal. It would go behind the clouds and come back again. Like it's kind of mysterious, but it felt really significant, is the word I
Hmm.
would use. Yeah, it felt very
Yeah,
powerful and significant.
and what's interesting too is normally in the day, if I try and stare at the sun, it's too intense, and when I stare at it, I don't see auras. But if I stare at it on sunrise and sunset, I can see auras.
Where do you see
So
auras around? Like plants and people
plants,
and
people, the sky, everything, because you're staring at pure light, which has all the spectrums, and then anything in contrast to that, you're going to see. So, I mean, we started staring at the sun about 2 years ago because I had a question. I'm like, how could the most beautiful thing on the planet that we have, we're not able to stare at? It just didn't make sense to me. So we
hmm
started playing around with it at sunrise and sunset, and what was crazy was one night I went to bed and the moon passed over and the moon was pink. And so what was happening was staring at the sun regularly for about 10 days, I started to see auras naturally.
Wow, wow, no
Mhm.
kidding. So you sort of kept seeing auras all the time?
Yeah. And the more I did it, the more I could see.
Interesting. So what auras are you seeing? Like
It's like,
colors or
yeah, pink,
like
yellow, purple, green, um, orange. It just depends on what you're staring at. But I find if you do sun gazing in the morning or you do it at night, um, if you have somebody next to you, do it for like a minute and then look at them in the face, and their whole face here will be purple. It'll look really dark. And
uh,
I think one of the reasons why people thought that they would go blind is because anything in comparison to the brightest thing on the planet is going to look dark.
right.
Yeah.
You pretty much feel blind afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, totally. Yeah, it's energetically, it's a powerful moment. Like I'm surprised there was so much propaganda because I'm in Texas. There's nothing has gone wrong. Although there's been a lot of weird shift, in the world. Like, you know, from the bridge collapsing prior, from what I heard, there was windstorms in Colorado where I'm from, and like power went out. They turned the power out. So there was a lot of intense Mother Earth stuff.
Yeah.
Earthquakes on the East Coast. So
Hmm.
two East Coast earthquakes. So that was interesting too. So you can tell the gravity's intense from this
Yeah.
event.
Yeah, it seems like there's been a shift, and particularly around authenticity and privacy and data as well. Like all
Mm.
of a sudden, all these data leaks, and everybody's asking for data, like Google and Apple, and they're now having to release it or get rid of it or delete it. So it seems like the authenticity or the transparency of the Aquarian Age is starting to come out now. Like
Mm.
everything is coming out. All the truth is starting to come out. Nobody can hide anymore.
Mm. Interesting. Yeah, and I imagine that's going to continue. I mean, my opinion is that it'll accelerate when Jupiter goes into Gemini in the end of May. I think you're going to see a lot of information coming out,
Hmm.
and also a lot of contrary to a lot of false information to cover it up
Yeah.
as well. So I think there's going to be a fury of information to decipher between come this summer. And I think what people need to do is really get in touch with their intuition. If you get a weird feeling about it when you hear the information, you should take note of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's something not right. So I think our minds really can't be a good determiner for the next year and a half or so, because we're in I think we're in a new timeline, and our minds are programmed for the old timeline.
That makes sense because the last little while I keep getting like super strong feelings, but nothing in my mind can
Put it together.
put it together. It
Right.
just doesn't. Yeah, it's like, yeah, that doesn't feel right. And everything for the last month, I would say, has been intensified when it comes to the feeling. Even
Yeah.
though the words and everything else lines up, there's a feeling behind that, and I don't know if everybody's starting to experience that, like a more in tune with their feelings or alignment with things. Because
Hmm.
that's
Well,
Aquarius, right? It's vibing.
you feel the vibe. Yeah. I think when we went through Pisces this year, which we just wrapped up, not too long ago, but what are we at today? We're at can't remember. Oh, step 19.
19,
So 19
19.
days ago. Yeah, yeah. I had to go blank because that's how timeless I am. But Pisces was super sensitive. Everyone had their stuff coming up. A lot of people were having a lot of physical issues, you know, just vomiting, sleep issues, just all coming to the surface.
Mhm.
So, um, I don't know. I'm really interested to see. I mean, my point is like I can't tell if I'm more sensitive because there's been a lot of drama. Like there's a lot of drama with everybody.
Yeah.
Even here, I'm at an event in Texas, and some people know me, and like people have stopped me and like had to tell me what's been going on in their life, and I'm just hearing story of drama after drama. People
Hmm.
just having one last bout with whatever their karmic issue was, one last dance with the boogeyman. So it's been
Yep.
intense.
It feels like that, and I also think because Aquarius is vibing, so you're finding things that vibe with you and don't. And I think people
Yeah,
are irritated because they have a bunch of things that don't still.
that's true.
And so
True.
it's kind of like that waiting period until everything is in alignment.
Yeah.
Do you know when that'll be? Like,
When you go to heaven, everything in alignment. When you die, Jason.
oh, come on. I actually think we're going to get to like 85, 95% over the next few years.
Yeah, I mean, if I were to make a prediction, I would say once Pluto is past 15 degrees Aquarius, then, we probably have cleared up because 15 is that point of new
Hmm.
equality. So at that point, you're looking at a higher vibration. So I think, probably about a decade, to be honest. Like to what you're wanting, I think. I don't mean
Come on,
to be a
Chris.
pessimist. Well, no, I mean, I think the next 18 months are going to be intense. Like we're going to go
Yeah.
through a purge. Like I'm not trying to
Hmm.
predict doom at all. I just
Yeah.
think it's always slow. I mean, you're a visionary, Jason. So one thing you're going to learn is you're always seeing far into the future what seems to be tomorrow. When
Hmm.
you're a visionary, what seems to be tomorrow is farther than you think.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, it's funny because I really, when the world went into some sort of doomsday, for
right,
me, I was
2020.
like, this is super exciting because the world that was set up for me growing up, I saw the trajectory of that.
Yeah,
Like I saw what my parents' generation was dealing with. I saw
yeah,
what the grandparents were dealing with, and
yeah,
nothing was enticing about that.
yeah,
The not being happy, not having enough to support themselves, not feeling
right.
good in their bodies, high
Yep.
divorce rate. It didn't seem like a good trajectory. So when all of this stuff started to unfold, for me that was an exciting time because I'm like, all right, like at least we get to try something different than what people are currently doing because what they're currently doing doesn't look so good.
I needed a major wake up. Actually, I always knew there'd be a major wake up call. I didn't realize there'd be shadow attempts to hijack. So that was a surprise to me. But I knew that something was gonna have to wake people up and jolt them up. And I kind
Yeah.
of feel like that's what's happened. I do feel that for light workers, I do feel like this eclipse is the turning point. So, I think there's two levels. When you say when are we gonna feel all this goodness, I think light workers are ready to as soon as they've cleared their stuff. But I think it will be separated from being around people who are still stuck in it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I think on retreats and stuff with you guys, like you're going to probably be really feeling the high vibrations. But a lot of people have to process this stuff that we've been processing since 2020.
Hmm.
So I think, and then we're here for that. So I think we're going to need breaks. I mean, the vision I had during the eclipse was because I'm with a group of people who are all high vibration here at the moment. And what I realized was, wow, we're going to have to actually take lots of retreats away from people who are going through their own ascension, just because it's just we're all empaths and we're taking it on.
Hmm.
It felt really good to be in this climax with a bunch of high vibe people.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
that's interesting. I definitely feel a shift in, at least personally, my desire to be in public.
and where's that shift? Like
Out of it.
out of it? Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm feeling that too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like even going live today, I'm like, man, I've been kind of staying out of being live in public and talking to people because that's just been the feeling, the shift for me personally. I don't know if that's a global shift for people or if that's just a personal one, but it's definitely been something for me lately.
what degrees you're rising again?
29 Aquarius.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, you're meant to go out.
Lovely.
Saturn's in the first house. Well, when you
Yeah.
feel it,
Yeah, yeah.
you're out of the 12th house transit. I was, that brings you sort of super spiritual. I think there's a oneness with nature that needs to
Mhm.
happen. I feel like nature is going to sort of embrace us. Like that's where we shelter to is to nature.
Yeah.
That was another thing I picked up during the apex just
Well,
now watching
I
it.
I really feel like okay, because of the lack of technology that we had, we made everybody super close to each other.
Yeah,
Or the lack of access to the technology. But now, because you can generate electricity from the air or from the ground or
yeah,
from all these other methods, I think the majority of people are going to go back into nature again.
yeah.
And the ability to convert food, the ability to grow your own food, the ability to live in the middle of nowhere, there's so much land. If you fly over Mexico or you fly over Canada,
Oh yeah,
99% of it is untouched. So if we have all
yeah.
that land and now with all this technology coming out, what does that mean for like people's living situation? So I have a feeling that we're going to start going out of cities. I think all of the corporate buildings are going to start getting abandoned. People don't want to live in a cardboard box anymore. And we're going to start to have the technology to actually live in nature. And that oneness with nature, building with nature is going to be the future.
I agree. I think Lucas had it right. Like it's going to be robots in the desert. We'll all be living out in the middle of nowhere with robots doing all the work for
Yeah.
us. Well, R2D2s and
Yeah.
C3POs. Yeah. And I think, but I also feel like, I think there's going to be clusters of high vibration communities, though. Like we're not going to be completely alone.
Yeah.
You know, I think
Yeah.
I think there'll be what I've seen here is like what I'm seeing is I think there's a well, first of all, I'm seeing the whole Lightwork community coming together now. Like so, this is my first event, in a while,
Hmm.
and everybody is anxious to everyone is tired of low vibration and everyone wants to hang out the high vibration and it just feels good to be around each other and it's just like such a nice break and I kind of feel like we're going to start to see a fabricing of these communities. And then a vision that I had was like literally these small little communities where we're just visiting each other,
Hmm.
kind of hopping around. Because even in this particular event that I'm at, there's people from my community, there's people from another community that I know. Like they're all, it's like, oh, I know you from YouTube. I know you from Garage. Like I know you, and we're all sort of mingling. So I think there's like a fabric. There's a new fabric forming,
Yeah.
and it might be, it might be a bit of a what's the word I'm looking for? A movement. There might be a movement that's about to happen. Is what it feels like.
Hmm.
And I think Jupiter and Gemini is going to be a lot of pairing up with people for this next year. I think it's huge community building. I also think it's a huge time for love.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people are going to be hooking up. Seriously. Yeah. In a biblical way, baby.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know what's interesting is like the long-term vision that we don't share as much about what we're doing behind the scenes at Human Garage because a lot of it is public facing, help heal your own body, but
Right.
it's finding places in nature where we can host 80 to 100 to 200 people, where we have our own food,
Mm-hmm.
people work and live together in community, but in a way where it still allows people to have the space to be with themselves or with
Right.
their family, but then
Oh, yeah.
connect with the community. Because what happened over the last 40 years was they took the grandparents and now they're super sick. They took the kids and put them in school, and then the parents are so busy working that the kids are no longer learning from the grandparents, and the parents are no longer translating the knowledge to their kids. So there's a separation between all the generations. But what I
Right.
think can happen is if we bring everybody back into community, it's funny because I was saying to Aisha the other day, we have a 7-year-old Maxine who's in a part of our community, and she should be the chief play officer of the organization because she teaches us how to play again,
Hmm.
right? But she's learning from the members of the community everything else that we do. And so instead of having two parents, you're the sum of 50 or 100 or 20 parents from different backgrounds with different skill sets. And I think it's going to create a stronger group of people rather than being programmed through the school systems.
But
Oh yeah.
it definitely has to be communities that talk to each other around the world. Otherwise, the same thing. After a couple of months, after a year of living all together, then it's the same thing. And then the community stops growing, the diversity, the new knowledge, no, all of the exploring. So they still have to talk to each other. So like you can bounce around all over the world.
Yeah, this is what I feel like is going to happen. I feel like it's a global movement and it has like points of presence.
Hmm.
And I feel some communities are going to be at certain ley line points. They were talking here like, oh, we should build a community on a ley line. Oh, no, that's like diarrhea for 10 weeks. Like you can't deal with the energy that long. Like it's
Yeah.
something you can dip into, but otherwise it's too much. So I can see these places being like tourist spots where we come in and we see each other.
Hmm.
But there's like this whole idea of micronations. I think that's really the term that I'm feeling it is like we're going to create
Hmm.
micronations basically that are
Well,
united micronations.
it's interesting that you say that about the ley lines. I'm curious about beaches because we were thinking of building one on the beach. And then when we stayed in the jungle for a little while, we actually thought about it. It's like if you build a community that's on the beach is a very intense emotional roller coaster that, you can withstand for a month, but 3 months, 6 months, that starts to have an impact. So I'm curious what kind of ley lines pass through those areas.
Well, the ley lines, most of Mother Earth's energy runs along the mountains. So, like, the mountain range of the Rocky Mountains from Mount Shasta all the way down through Mexico, that's the spinal cord of the Earth. That's
Mhm.
her energy is running down that mountain range. So that's the primary huge currents.
Hmm.
So, and I don't think you want to be in the huge currents. I think you want to be next to the huge currents. It's kind of creating fresh ions all the time, wishing by you. To be in the actual energy itself is usually pretty intense too.
Yeah.
Like, but to me, a beach thing would be like 33 days. You'd want to like beaching is a cleansing
Yeah.
thing. It'll dry you out. Like if you don't go inland, like you
Oh
need
yeah.
Yeah,
like
we did it last year.
We did it
We
for a
tried
month.
that.
Yeah.
a month is perfect.
Yeah.
Like on the beach for about a month, just to sort of clear out, and then you want to kind of ground again and let
Hmm.
your energy build up. I think really we're meant to sort of tour. I don't think we're meant to
Yeah.
stay stuck anywhere, to be honest. I mean, in the old days, you would roam. You
Yeah.
know, the tribe would roam to the beach, the tribe would roam to the jungle, the tribe would roam up, to the
Yeah.
mountains. That's why there's, the Incas and the Mayans have cities all over the place with
Yeah.
roads in between them, because
Hmm.
they would migrate according to the energies and the time of the year and the part of nature that they needed. I think that's really where we end up heading towards. Those of us, I don't know. I'm curious to see what's going to happen with timelines because I think one thing this eclipse really means is this is the birth of a new timeline for Earth. So
Yeah.
this is what I call Earth 3, which is a timeline of without struggle. And so from what I understand, you have these dual timelines where people continue to live in the struggle and people who tend find the third neutral perspective, the third eye perspective that's neutral. I
Hmm.
just don't know if we're going to talk to each other or not. That's the real curiosity.
Well, the
you know.
question is, can you even see them? But that we don't need to go that deep. But what I was thinking is like, this process of not owning anything that's being delivered through the media.
Yeah.
There's also a good side of that, and one of the sides of that is if you don't own anything, then when you travel or you have the ability to travel. So I see us co-owning things and then going from one property to another, and you stay there for a little while, and then you go to the next one. But when you get there, you have like-minded people there. So,
Hmm.
that's what all of our programs, I don't know how it happened, Chris, but our programs are just a way of training people in the basics of living a healthy life. So
Right.
when you get to a property, you have similar core values and you know how to live there.
Right.
It's like a communal, it's like a community building living training system. Even though it's just a life reset and the lifestyle artist program, that's really what it's prepping people for.
Yeah, totally.
Hmm.
Well, and I think people, and you want that supported, you know? It's like, I mean, just being on the road, because I've been in my house, but it's just like, ah, shit, where's the good water? You know, like, where can I find organic greens? Where can I, like, it's a lot, it's
A
a
lot of
headache. Like,
energy.
it's like, fuck. Yeah,
Yeah.
just trying to, like, and it's like, do I really want to eat Taco Bell? It's going to bring me down for like 2 days, you know, like, but it's the only fucking thing open, pardon my
Hmm.
French, like, you know, like,
Oh yeah.
so I think there's that benefit to it as well, you know?
Hmm.
But I see it, you know, I think the talk of no ownership is trying to talk us back into the feudal times, personally. That's feudal where you have a landlord and they are the lord of that. Like, that's
Yeah.
backwards. I mean, I'm not buying the World Economic Forum's
Hmm.
propaganda. I feel like we should own but share. That, to me, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, you have shepherds, you have, and it's not even really ownership, it's shepherding. It's like that you are watching over this piece of earth. So I think where it's gonna evolve is there's gonna be people watching over different periods of places on earth
Hmm.
who are the shepherds, not necessarily the owners. Sort of an American Indian, like, I don't own this, but it is under my domain. I'm the one here to protect it and share it with people who respect it. To me, that's where, if I were to put money on a table, that's where it's going to go.
Yeah.
Kind of co-ops like Human Garage. You know, I could see like lots of communities coming together. Like HG has a place in Mexico, and maybe Serious Story has a place in Texas. Like, and we're just sort of like floating between each other's
Yeah.
properties.
Well, they have that house swapping technology now where you can like sign up and trade homes for a week. But where I think it might go is AI is coming in and it's taking over the things that take our time. So what that does
Right.
is it frees up people's time, but it also makes us more self-sufficient. If we become more self-sufficient and we have the technology to produce what we need, then if we're no longer a needs-based society and everybody's self-sufficient, then why are you working? And how much do you work? And instead of working because you have to pay your bills, now you have everything that you need. So you're going to do what brings you the most joy. And from
Right.
there, your community is going to build itself. So I think that the economic system is going to crash and it's going to turn into self-sufficient systems where people share everything and it's not based off of like needs, it's based off of just what you want.
Yeah, I agree. I feel, I actually feel it's going to fade out, not crash. I'm just using that word
Yeah.
carefully. Like, because I think there's a lot of doomsday fear, crash stuff. I think it's going to fade out. I think you're going to find that you have lots of Garys and human garages that accumulate a lot of wealth and end up giving it to other people. And then it gets to the point where like wealth is only used now and then to buy a plane. You
Yeah.
know, like but otherwise it's pretty much bartered and traded. It feels like most of the psychics I talk to say that we're about 35 to 40 years before we start fading out
Hmm.
money. It'll
So
take that
what?
long. I think technology will do that bartering, like basically like you do on Craigslist. It's like, hey, I've got some apples. Like there'll be probably software that's like, I'll trade your apples. Probably creating like temporary credit through a web app or something where you give and then you receive. I'm not sure. It'll turn to bartering for sure.
Yeah, I definitely think trade and barter. That's interesting.
But I agree. I think
Yeah.
technology. So this is why light work. So light work, which is like the ability. There's two technologies: there's human technology, there's spiritual technology. I think there's going to be two directions that people go. I think some people are going to stay on the struggle bus and they're going to become enslaved by technology, like physical technology, like sort of the connection to the brain, Neuralink connecting to the machine. And then I think other people are going to ascend and start addressing spiritual technology and start learning, the technology that God gave us. But either way, robots are going to take going to be picking our fruit and doing all the work. So the number one industry is going to be teaching and evolution and ascension, or trying to win a cyber game. Like basically, people are going to have a ton of time on their hands. They're either
Hmm.
going to go play video games and escape through Neuralink, or they're going to go learn about their connection to higher dimensions in the jungle with Human Garage. Like those are the two paths I think you can do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we're gonna have. I think a lot of time is gonna be available. Yeah.
I'm in a parking lot. Someone's car alarm's going off uncontrollably. That's funny.
It's
Sorry, I
okay.
can't control that.
No, 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 it's okay. I had a thought about
That's
something.
weird.
I'm just trying to find it.
That's right. We've been interrupted here by.
Yeah, it's super
Sorry.
interesting. No, it's okay. I'm just processing like what happens to the monetary systems and how all of that works. So, do you
Oh,
feel
gotcha.
do you feel like so there's two systems that currently exist, and
Hmm.
one of them is full control of everything.
Right.
You're doing this for the greater good. We're going to make the decisions and we'll fund the things that we want to fund, right?
Hmm.
We
Right.
live the high life. And then
Right.
there's the other side of it where everybody's free to do whatever they want.
Right.
And on both edges of those extremes is toxic. At least the way that it's currently played out in society. So what I've noticed about Aquarius is they tend to take the good from two sides and merge it into some sort of balanced, cohesive middle ground.
Hmm.
So, what do you feel? How do you feel the structure of society is going to be taking, the full control and then the full independence and then finding that balance? Like, what does that even look like?
I feel, well, I think there's people who want to be controlled will be controlled. I think people who want to be autonomous will have to grow up, and
Hmm.
so the people who have full freedom, the truth is that I think there's a myth at hand. This idea that freedom is dangerous is a control motive. You
Hmm.
know, humans pretty much survived. Look, we got here based on freedom. We didn't get to where we are based on control. It
Yeah.
wasn't control that got us here. So I don't think it's gonna. I think if you have a bunch of people out in the middle of the woods having complete freedom, they're gonna self-regulate, right? Like you're not
Hmm.
gonna have crime in the human garage jungle situation because everyone knows everyone. You can't really get away with anything. There's no privacy.
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't. I don't feel like it's gonna become a problem really.
so how do you feel a community runs and operates in a healthy way if let's say I'm building a community, right? And I'm looking at the model of which I want to build that community. One
Hmm.
is there's a central point of control that makes the decisions and runs and operates things. And then,
Hmm.
they voted in or whatever, they've earned their spot or whatever. But then the other side is everybody in the community is free and able to do whatever they want. I've experienced and seen on both extremes that it ends up crashing somewhere. And I feel like there's another way to do things. I just don't know what that is yet.
Got you. Yeah, I agree. There's not a good operating system yet.
Hmm.
So most communities crash because they didn't think about governance. They didn't think about like a constitution. They didn't come
Yeah.
to an agreement. It usually has like one totalitarian dictator who usually might have been spiritual in the beginning, but once they get their first taste of power, they have no experience with power, and so they end up abusing it because they have the thing about light workers and spiritual people is a lot of times they've avoided those ego games, which is cool. Like you didn't participate in competition, you didn't like put people down, but the moment they get an inch of power, they turn into a kindergartner because they have no experience in ego.
Hmm.
So it's like I think you have to have a wisdom there set up, and I think you have to have some sort of common ground as far as spirituality is concerned. So like for instance, at Serious Joy in our business, like we're experimenting with conscious capitalism, right? So once a year, I meet with everyone that works with me. I look at their chart. We look at their astrology. We look at where they're spiritually growing, and we sort of like architect their responsibilities around their spiritual growth. What that does is, so when something comes up and they have a moment that's based on their karma, it doesn't turn into you did wrong, you broke the rules. It turns into like, oh shit, you're really being challenged by your issue in the eighth house with boundaries, huh? So it's like it gets really deeper. And so I think if you have those covenants, like if you have those types of principles in the system to where you sort of moving against right and wrong and moving more towards like spiritual growth and rising above,
Hmm.
if you have those principles, I think you can do well.
Yeah.
But I think it's an experiment. I mean, humanity actually has been enslaved from the beginning. Like the old idea of Atlantis was run, there were 12 families, there were 12 districts. Each one had like an empath that talked to heaven and brought down the governance through heaven. And each section of the count in the country of Atlantis was actually independently run by their higher self, and they all agreed to those higher self terms. And if you didn't like it, you moved to another one of the other 12. So I thought it was an interesting. It was basically the first idea for utopia That was the first architecture for utopia. But what happened was dark entities came in, took advantage of the naivety of the ignorance, and took the whole thing down. So,
Yeah.
so although it's a cool setup, it wasn't impenetrable to fear mongering and control and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
It was also female run, and the men were slaves, basically work slaves and sex slaves. Basically, it was complete
Sounds
opposite.
great.
I know. I'll be happy to be a sex slave. I'm happy to do that.
Oh, that's
Please,
fun.
God, take me
Yeah.
now. Just kidding.
Oh, yeah. You know, I like where you're going with the bringing astrology or bringing conscious lessons into how you evaluate someone. But my question is, where is the line drawn and who draws the line? Like, like, okay, I get it, Chris. Your sun is in the eighth house and it's conjuncting
Right.
this and that, but it's like, but your behavior over the last year is constantly, and so who draws that line, and how do you manage the side of spiritual with the capitalism?
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
that's a good call. Well, you have to create sort of, I think, with capitalism, you have to have your, it's like Disneyland. Once you're in human garage land, like cash doesn't exist. Like I think you have to step outside of the normal currency system personally, have your own credit system or whatever. I'm not talking social credit system like
Hmm.
China, but I feel overall you end up having some sort of you set up the principles for like what you all agree to, kind of like your Bill of Rights, your Constitution, your things like that, and then you have councils of people with an odd number like 5, 7, 9, like a prime number. So there's always you'll never end up in a tie, and you just
Hmm.
stay as democratic as possible. I think partly with spiritual wisdom though, it's like right and wrong isn't looked at as right and wrong when you change your values. It's based on learning and wisdom. So I think you're still applying a right or wrong principle to things. It's like even when you make the wrong choice, like turn down the wrong road, it's sometimes so that you can find something you didn't see. So it's like
Yeah.
even wrong is beneficial.
Yeah.
If you create a value system where like wrong is beneficial, you turn it into a teaching moment
Yeah.
kind of thing. You always have your bad seeds, energetically, where they come with a lot of karma. So you
Hmm.
have to have some wisdom for how you're going to handle that as well,
Yeah.
right? With boundaries and things like that.
Yeah.
But if you hurt others, I mean, the lines are clear, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, that one's clear, but I am not asking an easy question here. I'm just curious, like,
No,
let's say you have a community and you've got your 10 or 12 or 15 or 20 founders of that community.
right,
They dictated those rules and regulations and that govern the community. But the moment you've got person number 40 or person number 99 or 1001, they didn't, I mean, they agreed when they came in, but they weren't a part of participating in creating them. So there's a different energy there.
right,
And then the second thing is if they go against that, I mean, they've agreed to the rules when they come in. So I guess
right.
that's the way to do it. It's really to set the seed out right at the beginning, and then anybody who doesn't align with it, they just don't sign up. But if they
Yeah.
do align with it, then the boundary was set at the beginning, so there isn't even a conversation.
I think that's, the one thing about the modern world is how fast transit is now. Like by the time you and I are in our 50s, well, I'm in my 50s. When you're in your 50s, like you probably could take a Tesla rocket to Europe and be there in 30 minutes.
Hmm.
Like you just go to space and come back down. So the point is like I think it comes down to well then you don't belong in this community. There's another community you belong in. Like people will have the freedom I think to travel and not be stuck to a certain location of Earth due to their livelihood.
Yeah,
Like I think that's going to go away. So you could
and
you can migrate to the community that you with the values you believe in. You can truly go where you belong. That's really what the Age of Aquarius is. The Age of Aquarius isn't this big kumbaya where I'm just pretending like this person chewing with their mouth open isn't bugging me. It's that like I go, you're cool, chew with your mouth open, but I'm gonna go to this community where
yeah,
where we chew with our mouth closed. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not a matter of nothing wrong with you. It's just that you're not my
yeah,
tribe. There's no tribe
yeah.
pressure.
It's like this complete acceptance for everyone the way they are, but I'm not going to hang out with that even because it doesn't
Correct,
align.
because
Yeah,
it doesn't vibe with me.
Yeah.
when people say, I get a lot of, criticism in my community because I have like beginner, proficient, master levels, and people are like, you're being divisive. You're being divisive, creating these separate levels. I'm sorry, but God does the same thing. It's like there's 2D, 3D, 4D, 5D. You can't go to 5D if you can't handle 3D. God's put in these hierarchies. Like,
Hmm.
you got to be this tall to ride this ride. There's places you don't belong. I don't belong in the middle of an anthill. An ant doesn't belong in my food. Like, there's boundaries or separation. That's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Not everyone is supposed to be treated exactly the same. That's actually a totalitarian approach, that everyone has to be treated the same way. Communism is not godly.
And even
There's
the
nothing common about
timelines,
people. Go ahead,
the
yeah, Aisha.
like the even the timelines, I feel they're taking care of a lot of that. Because like that is naturally like separating certain things and certain people based on belief,
Yes,
people based on, wants and things. So that is already happening naturally.
I agree.
And
Totally.
that is just like the last little bit. Once you come into community, that it's kind of like try it on. It's like, nah, maybe not, maybe this one, maybe that. And it's just like the refinement of it. But that separation, it's already happened naturally a little bit, I feel.
I
And the
agree.
gap is getting bigger. Every
Well,
time I go out to the normal world, I feel the gap.
it is a gap. The problem is the judgment of the gap.
Hmm.
Like, that's the problem. And that's a deliberate manipulation by certain people in power who want to be in power. They,
Yeah.
they they make it like that it's bad that there's Republicans and Democrats. That's not bad. It's not bad that one's not like the other. There's nothing bad with that. We can take turns running the country or whatever, but you drive down the 405 in LA, like in your, Mercedes, like with Sirius XFM paying, and right by you is a Pinto and someone smoking a crack pipe. You know what I mean? Like, we're both on totally different timelines, but we're coexisting. I'm cool, just don't hit my car, whatever. So we're already divided. What's negative is that I go, oh, you're wrong.
Hmm.
It's like, I had past life in ancient China where I was probably a heroin addict. I get
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Been there, manifested that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so I think being accepting. Age of Aquarius is about being accepting. Like, it's cool. It's cool that you're in that space.
Well,
You know.
I think the positive outcome of all of the social programming in the media right now is it's forcing people to argue and fight, get the emotions out, and then they accept. So it's actually working in a positive way by dividing people. It's forcing
Right.
people to divide, then they fight, and then all of a sudden they go, "Wait a minute, like we're cool."
Yeah.
And I think that that's happening organically. So
It's
one of the things,
backfiring. Just like
yeah,
COVID backfired. COVID
yeah,
backfired too. Because
yeah.
it's like everyone was working 60 hours a week, like putting everything into their job, ignoring all their family, all this stuff, like not paying attention to what really matters in life. It's like, okay, and you throw out this virus, Chinese made or whatever, with a desire to control. What happens? People go home, they reconnect with their families, they reconnect with themselves, they realize, where's my life headed in the 60-hour week job? The dark stuff always backfires on them. Always. The light,
Hmm.
that's why the dark paves the way for the light. Dark always lays out this thing, and people like, it's only that first moment that you can really be controlled by it, because eventually you have to either keep accelerating and taking it higher, like the pain threshold higher, or people wake up real quickly. It wears off, just like
Yeah,
you said.
yeah. So one of the things that I'm curious about is what, like we're talking about traveling
That's a
more, and
sad
then
statement there. One of the things
yeah,
I'm curious about.
yeah. One of the things I've been pondering for 10 years,
Yeah,
but it's
exactly.
it's this travel thing that we're talking about. How people are going to be traveling from one community to another, et cetera, and certain areas are going to be more intense, and some are going to be more rejuvenating, and so forth. So what, like, how much do you know about astrocartography, and how does that relate? Because I feel when I enter a new environment, just stepping my feet on the ground there, I change. Just from
Yeah.
touching it. Like I remember we went to Mount Shasta,
Oh yeah.
and like
That's
I
a
left
on
that
my butt.
place feeling like I had roots in the ground.
Yeah. Yeah. Shasta's the root chakra. You know that.
Mm-hmm.
That's like
Yeah.
Mother Earth's genitals. Like, that is like her
Yeah.
her canal, her birth canal right there. Like, it's what
But
that is.
so what are your thoughts? Like, is it worth people exploring astrocartography, and what lines work for them and stuff like that? Because I mean, I feel like it has a big impact. I just don't know enough about it to make decisions on it.
So the way it works is this: you are you are actually a child of Mother Earth. Really, oh, goodness, this just keeps happening over and over. You're a child of Mother Earth. So when you're here in Earth, you're actually combined the whole Earth's energy. Your soul spreads out over the entire Earth, basically. So there are different places of your soul that you can access in different places of the Earth. Okay, I
Oh yeah,
noticed that.
that's
I
the
didn't even
new
know how.
function.
It's all heart. I don't know how it's found. It's all heart in that. So and you actually sometimes want to break from your lines. So for instance, like I'm actually in Texas. This is my Chiron line in Austin, Texas. I moved to Austin, Texas 1 year before my Chiron return. I had my Chiron return, which is my total breakdown and breakthrough,
Yeah.
my shaman rebirth. And then as soon as that was over, I didn't want to live here anymore. I was done. So being in my Chiron line expunged all my karma. I like it here, but there's no more magic here for me.
Hmm.
In Colorado, it's my Pluto line. And every time I've gone back to Colorado, I've put back together Humpty Dumpty. So now I'm back to my Pluto line, putting back together Humpty Dumpty. But I'm going to actually write my book this year deliberately on my Jupiter Mercury line that when they conjoin. So where my mind and my belief structure and my mind come together. And I'm going to experiment with that energy and deliberately write my book in that energy, feeling like it's going to create better downloads for me than otherwise. But when I went on vacation in Cozumel, Mexico over New Year's, the lines were so far apart, like there was no lines going through Cozumel at all. And I was very curious, like, what is that about? It was complete relaxation. It was complete, like, do whatever the F you want. I felt no compulsion to do anything. I didn't feel any anxiety. I didn't feel so like having no ley lines was very comfortable also, and a
Like a
break
human.
from having to always move forward. So I think as we become wiser and technology becomes wiser, you'll literally be able to in Expedia just do a checkbox for ley
Yeah.
lines and choose like where on the earth to visit, especially if we can like do under like tunnel trains that go 300-400 miles an hour. Like if we have high speed underground rail or stuff like that where you could just get on a tunnel train and be in New York in an hour, from LA or something. I think it's going to
Mhm.
just open up for us to be where it feels good.
Yeah. So, and where do you look at your lines? Are you using astro.com?
I'm using astro.com. It's missing parans in there, and parans are like basically what happens when you have an intersection. It creates an invisible paran around the Earth, like another equator of where
Hmm.
the equation is. Astro.com doesn't show those energetic equator parans, so that's kind of a bummer. But other software does, like Astro Gold does, and I can't remember the one on the PC that does.
Hmm.
So you can go deeper than
Yeah.
Astro.com offers for sure.
Huh.
But take a look. And there's 4 points basically. So the only time a line is effective, so it's like your soul is wrapped around the earth, but the lines go around to where it touches all 4 points of your chart. The 4 points being the midheaven and the IC, and then the ascendant and the DC. So basically, it's how all the planets relate to these different 4 directions of your chart. The north direction will be your future. The south direction will be where you come from. So you can have like a Venus line in the south direction, and that's going to be very homey. You can have a Venus line on the MC. It'll be Venus MC, and that's going to be your creativity as towards the future. So it basically also you can sort of manipulate it to where you want. You want to focus on where you're coming from. You want to focus on relationships, which is the DC line. You want to focus on your expression. You want to focus on your future or your past. So it's basically relationship, self, future, past is kind of like how you play with those lines.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
And it
I'm
brings
definitely
different
gonna put
parts of your
them.
person. Where are
Yeah.
you now? Like, have you looked at your ley lines now where you are?
Uh,
Your astroturf?
um, I can't remember. Mine's about tapping into old wounds will resurface, and you will meet healers who will share with you how to be a healer. I think it was, I can't
Old wounds
remember
will
what line it's.
resolve.
What's
It must
that?
be if it's old wounds will resurface, it's probably your your DC line. So it's
Yeah.
probably a line with a planet with the DC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My sun line is in Lions Bay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is that where you
Yeah.
come from? Is that you
And
are?
my sun line also goes through South Africa, which is where I was born. So where
Oh,
I was born
wow.
and where I moved and my parents lived, my sun goes through both of those.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
My North Node was LA, and North Node is like what you're supposed to become in life. And I moved to LA at 19 and developed my whole self. I've been living by my astrocartography line subconsciously, not knowing it my whole
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
Like just migrating subconsciously to it. So you don't even have to know it, but it helps to know it
I think it's
because it explains
I
why
think
things amplify.
yeah, I think we naturally do everything that's right for us,
Yeah,
and then we can validate and understand it more with reading about it. Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
And add depth to it and understanding. Yeah,
Hmm.
for sure. But that
So
really works out for meeting people and everything else. Yeah.
yeah. So for today, for the last bit of this episode, I really want to learn a bit about the eclipse. Like, what does that mean? Um, what can people expect personally? I mean, without going like way too in depth. I know you do a show every Friday night on YouTube that
Yep.
people can really dive into, and I
Yep.
love them. But just like a little overview, like what would you tell somebody if you met them in the coffee shop right now?
Coffee shop. Uh, well, in essence, I would say that there's different layers. So it's like if you have been always trying to heal yourself, like through Human Garage or a spiritual community like Serious Joy, and you've been working on your stuff and you're aware of it, this eclipse is the final coming back together. So it's the return of your fraction self into a unity. So what's coming up for those people who are on the breaking edge of healing, you're getting rid of the last little burps and farts and things in the way that keep you from feeling whole. And so there's been even I had some last minute breakdowns last Thursday, Friday. I actually missed Astro Mechanics last Thursday because I was in a complete past life breakdown and didn't even realize I was missing like my appointments. I was so just like
Yeah.
temporary insane.
Huh.
Yeah, and it's amazing. And it's like it wasn't until Friday I'm like, oh my God, I missed a show. But and that temporary insanity is the past life trauma coming to the surface to be cleared. So
Mm.
just about everyone's going to have some sort of trauma come to the surface, either 3 days before to 3 to 5 days after. If it happens after, you're a person who fights too hard and holds on too strong. And so it hasn't happened yet for you,
No,
Aisha?
no, it has happened. Like
Okay, good.
it has been
Yeah,
going on.
me too. So if it happens before the eclipse, you're a person who's more open to change.
Mm.
If it happens after the eclipse, you're a person who's less open to change. So you had to sort of be beaten down by the eclipse to open
I'm
up
gonna
and release.
Mm.
Now, people who
Well,
are completely in denial, they'll have a huge breakdown from this eclipse because it's a huge healing energy. And so if there's any disease, it's sort of like a disinfectant. All the bacteria
mm.
is going to come up to the surface because you're in complete denial. So they'll probably manifest a life-changing event if they're lucky, right?
Huh. And
Depends on how hard you fight and resist.
what are the odds that you have both, like before and after? Like, what does that mean?
That's sort of a mix between the two. It's like in some
Yeah.
ways you're open, in some ways you still hold on. So you kind of need to do in spurts.
That
Like you
makes you a
couldn't,
Pisces.
yeah,
Well,
right. Means you're not a Pisces.
Friday was quite emotional. Like
Yeah.
Friday was intense. I don't know what was going on Friday, but that was emotional for everybody around us. We could see it.
Friday was, you know what happened on Friday was step 16. Actually 16 that's to a 7. So it was a spiritual day, but we have Mars, Mercury, Saturn, and Neptune. No, not Mercury. We have Saturn, Neptune, Mars, and something else. I guess Venus and Pisces. So we have a lot of Pisces energy.
Hmm.
So basically what happened is like the ego is what covers us up and denies. So what happened was on the step 16 day, the ego opens up.
Right.
And so if you have any spiritual magma like underneath that you've been blocking, it just comes shooting up on a net 7 day. Net
Mm.
6 too, but net 7. So it's a relaxed day from the ego. Then Saturday and Sunday, the ego got really strong again. And tomorrow, by the way, the ego will also be very lubricated. So tomorrow is sort of an open day where a lot of feelings can come. Most people will have, anyone who hasn't had an event will probably have it tomorrow. It will hit
Hmm.
the fan tomorrow. It'll be an enough is enough moment. We're just like,
Yeah.
God damn it, I've had enough of this. And God's like, thank you. We've been trying to get you to realize that for a long time. But I
Yeah.
think from this point forward, the the basically the champions are rising up again. So people who are here to champion the future, they're now germ free. They're
Mm.
now going to go out in the world. And so you're going to see real friction in the world between the light and the dark. Most of the friction is not that the light's turning towards the dark, it's that the light's passing the dark, and the dark is going to start to like
Try and catch it.
start to clam after,
Huh.
which in a very personal way means if you come to this realization and you've got somebody low vibration in your life, they're going to start like hanging on you and trying to pull you back. And so there's going to be this pull back from the light
Mm-hmm.
because the dark wants company, so to speak. Now, I say dark, I mean fear, anxiety, unresolved emotions. We're not talking about Darth
Yeah.
Vader here. We're just talking about people who are ignoring that there's a problem.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because I feel, well, first of all, I feel extremely charged up from the staring at the eclipse.
Oh,
It
do
was
you?
funny because they
This
were
is him
messing.
charged up. He's so
Yeah.
calm by nature. This is him charged up, Aisha. This is it.
Yeah, this is as charged as it gets.
No,
He could have
but
a pipe and just be talking right now.
no,
He's bouncing off the walls.
I think that's the Aquarius ego. It's just it
Yeah,
never wants to
it
show,
is.
right?
You're right. It's so
Yeah.
calm. It's so like, we're
Yeah.
good, we're good. But
Everything's
inside, you're like,
fine.
what? Okay. You can
But
see inside him.
it was funny because they told all the kids not to go to school
Mm-hmm.
and everybody to go inside.
That's very interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is really weird,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Now, whenever they tell me something, I do the exact opposite.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah.
It is a
Yeah.
weird thing. I actually do feel, well, okay, so you want to get really deep. I do feel that the sun has certain light codes that come out of it. I think we're a light being. So I think that we are invisible light. Basically, that's what energy is. So, even an electron and a proton, it's really light that has become solid into a charge, right? So
Mhm.
we are light zipping around light. That's all we are. And so here's this big star in the sky that gives us the light that nourishes us. So I have a feeling that what happens is in an eclipse, there's some sort of a light encoding where we get sort of a download from God consciousness, I feel. And I know that because it passes around the moon is all of our emotions. So you have all this love passing around our emotions, right? All this love engulfing our emotions. There's some sort of love code there, I think,
Mm.
for us to probably release emotion, purify. And so my gut is like they just didn't want you in that healthy sun.
Yeah.
They didn't want you soaking up that vitamin D.
Yeah.
Like there's
I
literally,
feel
yeah, go ahead.
I feel calmer in my body. I feel more grounded. My head
Yeah.
feels bigger and my heart feels bigger.
And very open.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like very, very open from that.
My heart
Super
feels
interesting.
open too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much do you know about everybody's been posting on social media how it's creating
Oh yeah, the AA.
the Jewish symbol.
Oh, the
The
Star of David.
yeah,
And
like what's going on there? Do you know much about that?
the truth of the matter is, even that Star of David and all those shapes, they all came from watching planetary movement. That it all came from watching planetary movement. If you saw like the orbit of Venus, it looks like a spirograph. The way it creates this beautiful design. It's all, sacred geometry that the lines create, and they are sacred because it's basically the sacred geometry of how planets pass in front of us. So if you think of a planet having sort of like like leaving, like when they pollute the skies, what do they call that? Like,
Mm-hmm.
but like leaving, it's sort of like it leaves behind a tail. Energy leaves behind a tail, and then those tails form shapes of energy in the sky, and those shapes of energy in the sky, different shapes unlock different parts of consciousness. So
Yeah.
now I don't think that people commenting have any clue what it really means, and I actually think a long time ago, the Star of David was squatted on by Illuminati. It was squatted, like a lot of people are taking ancient symbols and they're owning it for their own occult reasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you would, like anything, you could kill somebody with that or save their life with that. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
depending on your intention of using the energy.
Yeah.
So I find it fascinating that it makes that shape. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm in Austin, Texas, where there's literally from the eclipse there's an X
Mhm.
marking the spot. I came
Mhm.
here because of the X marking the spot. Do I know what it means? Nope, but God said X marks the spot. I figured go there. Like, like there's a human gravitation. Like I should be
Huh.
there, so I'm
Yeah,
not concerned about it.
I have my feeling is nobody really knows.
Yeah.
I think it was just someone figured out that it does create that symbol, but I don't think we really know. I think people pretend to understand it, but I don't think we can conceptualize what's really going on there. Yeah.
It's the completion of some sort of cycle. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the planets all have their dance. We know that when Pluto makes one cycle, there's like an upgrade. So I think when you create these sacred geometry shapes and you complete the shape, you complete a cycle.
Yeah.
And completing a cycle is like it's played itself out. It's been here, 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 and here. So it's been everywhere once, and that completes one level of awareness. So I think it marks an ascension.
Yeah. So with the Declaration of Independence, you were saying that it's coming. So there was an intention that was set, right? And whenever you set a vision or a goal or an intention, there's all these lessons to learn along the way,
Mm-hmm.
and it's usually uncomfortable until you figure out, like, oh, this is how you communicate in real time, or this is how you don't hurt your neighbor, or this is how you share, or whatever, right? So
Right.
the lessons along the way happened over the last few centuries, and the question is like, do you feel like that intention is now coming? Maybe this symbol was the closure of that intention.
I actually think it's the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think this is. I actually feel like they said, "Hey, let's create this we the people sort of situation where everyone has individuality and has importance." And I think it's taken until this first cycle for everyone to become aware that they have those rights. Like I don't think people understood the rights until now.
Yeah.
So actually,
Yeah. So
this is the moment that the forefathers were when they were worried about the Constitution falling apart. It was
yeah.
now that it was written for. It wasn't written for anything up until now. It was written for now.
Yeah.
Like,
And that's I guess what I'm saying, which is whenever I like, if I say to you, I'm gonna become a professional athlete, there's a
yeah,
lot of mistakes I'm gonna make along the way
yep,
so that I can realize the point that we're at now, and I think that that's it. It's like their intention was set, all the lessons were now learned, now people realize it, and now it's gonna step into that completion of that cycle, and now
yeah,
the beginning of what they intended. Yeah.
yeah. I think they had to
Interesting.
become aware. I mean, everything that could go wrong. Basically what happens with Pluto, because we're one Pluto revolution from the American Revolution. So Pluto is the boundary. So Pluto's like, okay, we hold this, that all people, humans are created equal. This is our intention. And Pluto's like, well, this could go wrong, and 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 this is where you're vulnerable. So Pluto's basically shown, here's all the ways that cockroaches could get into there.
Mm-hmm.
And Pluto's like revealed every cockroach hole. And now Pluto's back and it's like, okay, go for it. So I
Right.
think really the United States is one Pluto year old. And,
Mm-hmm.
which means, and Pluto is step zero. So basically it's now Pluto's at one. It was at zero the entire 249 years. So
Yeah.
to me, this is the moment where we're technically tested whether or not we're going to live up to what we've learned or not.
And how long does it take Pluto to cycle to step two from step one?
249 years. 249 years.
So it's going to be in step one Aquarius for 249 years, or to go through
Well,
all.
if you look at the United States chart, it's it's Pluto 0 years old, Pluto 1 years old. So Pluto
Mhm.
is 1 years
Yeah.
old now.
Yeah.
Pluto's since the United States was born, Pluto is
Yeah.
1 years old.
Yeah.
Pluto
And
today is at step two. Actually, yeah, I went to step
yeah.
two. No, it goes to step two on Wednesday. Actually, it's a step one right now. It goes to step two on Wednesday.
So how long would it take to get to 29 degrees Aquarius?
Uh, it's gonna take 40, 20, 22 years. 22,
Huh.
23 years. It's gonna be in Aquarius for 24 years. That's the longest transit it has
Wow.
is Aquarius and Leo.
Yeah.
So Aquarius and Leo is the longest because Pluto has like a racetrack around the sun, and
Yeah.
and actually the sun is here and Pluto goes way far and then comes way close. So so basically the long stretch of the track is Pluto and Aquarius. So I mean, excuse me, Leo and Aquarius.
Mhm.
And Leo was the baby boomers. So the baby boomers were the last time, basically 1930, maybe 1936 to 1950 or something. I can't remember. Like, yeah, in the early 50s. That was the last 24-year Pluto transit. We just went through Pluto and Capricorn is only 15 years. And
Right.
Pluto and Sag is only 12 years. So it does, not every sign gets the same amount of Pluto.
Yeah. Huh. So basically for the next like 22, 24 years, we're going to see that's where the rise of technology, that container. And then after that point, it's going to kind of settle.
After that point, it's ascension. So I think,
Yeah.
because Pluto goes into Pisces.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what happens is we unlock spiritual technology with one group of people. And then we have material technology trying to reach spiritual levels.
Yeah.
They're both going towards spiritual levels. Remember, Pisces is either God or fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. So what will happen is, no offense there, but delusion. So I think what will happen is part of the population when Pluto Pisces will be completely delusional. In other words, they plugged into the internet. Their brain is one with the machine. They're part of the Borg. They cannot separate reality from fantasy. And then I think you have the other group that grew with spiritual technology, and those people will start to move to 5D. So if you were to say, when does 5D open up? If I were to have a serious answer, I feel like when the time Pluto hits Pisces, there'll be a fraction of the population who can ascend. That's what I'm feeling intuitively.
Yeah.
It'll take 24 years to raise your vibration.
So in that process, like now that Apple just submitted a patent where they can read your thoughts and turn it into a picture.
Right.
So do you feel like technology will reach a point where it can read the Akashic records?
No, actually.
I'm going deep.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
No, that's a good question.
Because it's energy.
I don't think so.
And if we can, right now we're at that point where, I mean, this technology has existed for a long time, but Wi-Fi routers can scan your whole house and know where you're standing. Now they're using AI to generate actual, postures.
Right.
And if AirPods can read your thoughts, then what would be interesting is to do an experiment on someone who reads the Akashic records to see what's happening.
Right.
And see if you can actually turn what they're channeling into a picture. I'm sure there's a way to do it.
There is. I mean, so there's stories of alien technologies where they record spiritual memories into crystals so that you can reanimate life through crystals. But even then, they're not they're storing in a physical crystal. It's not like the crystal's reading the Akashic. There's something going on. So even aliens are storing it in like material devices.
Yeah.
I feel like spiritual technology is so progressed. We're talking about what God wired up.
Yeah.
That I think we are, probably 26,000 years from penetrating that. Because I think we'll merge body with machine in our lifetime for sure.
Well, what I find so interesting, and like I grew up in the generation where like you had a computer when you were in your teens, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, I like one of the things is I can visualize something and I can create it and then I can go and do it. And I find when I visualize or create something in my imagination, I don't use any physical energy or physical exertion to create the result that I'm looking for.
Right.
And what I found was super interesting is I can do it on a computer. It's bringing that imagination onto something physical that I can see. And so we're only a step away from being able to pull all of consciousness onto a screen that we can see. Because what we've been doing since the internet came out is we're pulling consciousness onto a screen so we can read it and see it.
Right.
But we're only one step away from going to all the history, all of it. I just don't know what that process would look like.
I don't know either, but I feel like it would probably be something God made, like a crystal, or maybe man mimicking a crystal.
Yeah.
It's definitely, I think it's possible, but I feel like for the light workers, like that's something AI is not going to touch for a long time.
Yeah.
I don't think you'll be able to compete with what we do for a long time. We've got a patent on that for at least our lifetime. But, I think we might have the choice. I think you will have the choice of whether or not you choose to live beyond your natural age. I do think that we're going to be dying at the end of this life. I think it's one of the reasons why the population is leaving, is because they're coming back for the next. They're leaving. They don't want to be part of this anymore. They're going to other systems, or they want to come back once things have changed and start from scratch. But I think the next big generation that comes back could live almost forever if they want to.
How long do you think we are from living 500 years?
I think we're a while from that, but I think, for instance, your generation will probably have the ability to live to like 120 to 130 if you want to.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's some scientists coming out right now saying, we in 10 years we'll have the technology that you can live till 400, 500. Yeah.
You're surprised. I mean, this is just my gut. I have no evidence of this, but I feel like the human body was designed to live about 120. That's what most spiritual leaders say when they channel information. So,
Mhm.
and that's where we used to be, is 120. And the aliens came in and dumbed down our DNA and made it down to 60 and 40. Like, that was all from the enslavement of the human race. So 120 is where we're supposed to be naturally. So you're talking about, when do we go beyond what God did? I think
Mhm.
that's quite a while. Just undoing the damage of our captives, our captive,
Yeah.
people held as captive is the first step.
Well, because what they're saying is like you have a rate of dying and you have a rate of growth, right? And so if we can if we can surpass the rate of death even a little bit, you can live hypothetically for forever. So
Right.
I don't know. I mean, let's just say it's a very interesting time to be alive.
It
There's a
is
lot of things that are
very.
going to be coming out in the next little bit, and for everybody listening, I just this conversation is these are the thoughts that I have all the time. It's like all of this stuff is happening in the world, but there's so much positive coming out of it at the end of it, and I really feel like we're just at the tip of the iceberg where everything's going to change, and people are going to see it now, and there is going to be a divide.
I think so. I think
Yeah.
people want to. Some people still have some dark stuff to work out, and they're gonna go ahead and do it. Some people are done with the
Yeah.
dark,
Yeah.
fear, worry, resentment, all that stuff, and they're gonna want to go on. So, and hopefully, I mean, we'll see you in Austin, right? Like, some of us see
Yeah.
you in a month, right, brother?
Yeah, we're going to be there just before May 12th for our event. So
Be
for
there.
those of you who don't know, we're going to be doing a trauma release class in Austin on May 12th, and Chris on May 18th and 19th has his own event called the Unite the Light.
Right.
So you
Right.
can head to your website. Is it on your
Unite the
website?
light. Love. Yep. Unite the light. Love
UniteTheLight.love.
is the light.
Yeah, so
Yep.
check it out. If you want to see Chris live in person, we'll be down there too. We're going to be bringing a lot of people from around the world together to share
Yeah.
all of this information, connect with people in person. So looking
It's
forward
gonna
to
be
it.
awesome.
Thanks,
Yep.
Chris.
And I'll be at your event too, brother. Yeah, my
Yeah,
pleasure. Thanks
yeah,
for
we'll
having
talk
me on,
soon.
man.
Okay, we'll
Okay.
talk soon. Take care. Bye, everybody.
Just started raining. Perfect.